Hello everyone, today we're diving into two really important topics, Saint Hippolytus and the Eucharist. Ever wondered how the Mass developed and what it has to do with one of the early church fathers, or why the Eucharist is considered the central act of Christian worship? Well, don't worry because we're going to break it down. Let's start with the Eucharist. It's kind of a big deal in Christianity because it's the central act of worship. But what does that mean? Well, it all begins with the idea of agape, which is a Greek word for universal love. Basically, love for all people. The Eucharist is all about giving thanks and sharing in Christ's love. The Mass started out a little simpler, and it began with readings from the Bible, singing psalms, prayers, and collection for the poor. Back then, there weren't fixed prayers like we have today. Things like the Creed, Hail Mary, or Glory Be weren't even part of it yet. Now here's where it gets interesting. In the earliest letters of St. Paul, which were written around 50 AD, we already see a reference to the consecration. This is when the bread and wine become the actual body and blood of Christ, and it's all because of God's power. So the Eucharist is all about thanksgiving and is considered the central act of Christian worship. Christians believed from the start that Christ is truly present in the Eucharist, even though it looks like bread and wine. It's like a mystery where, through God's grace, the bread and wine are transformed into something much deeper. Now let's talk about Saint Hippolytus. He was an early church father and an important writer. He fought against heresies and even wrote about Christian practices. He ended up having some serious disagreements with church leaders, and because of this, he broke away from the church for some time, and he was even chosen as an anti-pope by his followers. Hippolytus didn't always get along with the popes. In fact, he broke from the church and declared himself the anti-pope, but over time he reconciled with the church and even became a martyr. This was after being exiled and working with Pope Saint Pontian in Sardinia. One of his biggest contributions was the apostolic tradition, which is basically about passing down the faith from the apostles. It covers things like ordination, baptism, and even the Eucharist. Some of the prayers from the Eucharist that we use today actually come from his writings. The apostolic tradition is huge because it shows how the early church worshipped and celebrated the Eucharist. It was passed down through generations, and some of those same practices were included in the reforms of the Second Vatican Council. So in a nutshell, Saint Hippolytus helped shape early Christian worship, and the Eucharist has always been at the heart of that worship. It's all about coming together, sharing in Christ's love, and being united in faith. To wrap it up, the Eucharist isn't just about eating bread and drinking wine. It's a mystical experience of connecting with Christ's body and blood. As for Saint Hippolytus, he might have had his disagreements, but in the end, his writings and teachings helped shape how we celebrate today. And that's it. Hopefully now you've got a better understanding of the Eucharist and Saint Hippolytus. Thank you for watching!